He was a school caretaker from Indiana when he came onto America's Got Talent and won, which no one anticipated coming. The confetti, applause, and viral moment, though, disguised something much more sad and surprising than the act that made him famous. When the season finished, Richard made a choice that shocked fans and made them wonder what was going on behind the scenes. His climb was emotional, his journey was unforgettable, and the reality he eventually confirmed is something no one saw coming. What is Richard doing now and where is he? The answer will really shock you. How Richard came to be known around the world. A simple encounter in a middle school where Richard Goodall had worked for most of his adult life introduced him to the world in a way he never thought possible. Richard started singing like he often did when kids got together at Westview Middle School in Tarrant in 2022. He was wrapping up another day there. Someone took out their phone, recorded him singing "Don't Stop Believing," and put it online without knowing what would happen next. His voice had already started to spread by the time he got back to work the next morning. First on TikTok, then on every other social media site that loves surprises. People quickly started spreading the video, and the national media noticed as the number of views grew. The clip was shown again by news channels. Comment sections were full of praise. Not long after that, talent scouts and TV producers started to notice, too. Richard still got up early, put on his work shirt, and went to the same job he'd had for more than 20 years, even though there was a lot of commotion. People didn't know that this kind of attention was new to Richard. From the start, his life had been straightforward, consistent, and based in Indiana. He was born in Indianapolis and lived most of his life in Tarrant, where he built rituals and found happiness in things that most people don't notice. He wasn't only the caretaker at Westview Middle School. He was the guy who welcomed youngsters with a grin, made them laugh when they were having a bad day, and sang and hummed along to classic rock tunes while cleaning the cafeteria. Students saw him every day, and over time he became a part of the school's culture. When America's Got Talent called, the chance was nearly too good to be true. Richard had never flown before. He had never traveled across the country or been in a place with cameras, bright lights, and millions of viewers. In May 2024, for the first time in his life, he got on a plane to Los Angeles. All he had with him were his voice, his anxieties, and the support of a community that had been cheering him on since his first viral video. For most of the music participants, the America's Got Talent stage is the last stop on a long journey they've been getting ready for. But for Richard, it was a jump into a world he had only seen from afar. When he got onto the stage, he was frightened at first, but it became more obvious when he introduced himself. But as soon as the music started, something familiar came back. His voice calmed down, his face shifted, and all of a sudden, the shy caretaker from Indiana filled the whole auditorium with a performance that was both personal and powerful. The judges leaned in when he sang "Don't Stop Believing." The crowd stood up, and Heidi Klum made the choice that would change everything for him. She grabbed for the golden bell, and as the confetti fell, Richard stood there in shock, tears in his eyes, and feeling like he was at a moment that was grander than anything he had ever imagined. From then on, he saw the tournament as the chance of a lifetime. He used every performance to thank the people who had helped him long before the cameras showed up. He chose "How Am I Supposed to Live Without You" for the quarterfinals and dedicated it to his fiancée Angie. He sang with such emotion that even people who didn't know him felt like the song was for them. When he came back for the semi-finals with "Eye of the Tiger," he showed a different side of himself. His performance was stronger and more energetic, proving that he wasn't just a viral story. He was a strong candidate with a lot of range. He understood deep down that he was representing the people who helped him get to the finals. Richard went back to the band that had inadvertently molded this part of his life in the last episode. He sang with all his heart, putting all of his feelings and experiences into the song. Richard Goodall was named the winner of America's Got Talent Season 19 not long after that. The confetti, lighting, and ovation made this emotional moment feel even bigger than the concert itself. This wasn't just a win. It was proof of all the hard work he did behind the scenes and all the times he kept singing even though no one in the business was listening. But there was something sad underlying all of that accomplishment that explained why his performances were so full of emotion. The world saw the victory. But they didn't see the wounds behind the voice. That portion of his tale tells us even more about the man America loved. The voice's wounds. It may have seemed like Richard Goodall's climb was rapid from the outside, but the truth is that he had been carrying years of disappointment before America even heard him sing. He had tried earlier when he auditioned for The Voice, hoping for a break or at least an opportunity to be seen. But nothing happened. There was no call back, no encouragement, just stillness, which every artist understands all too well. He went back to his life like most individuals do after being turned down. Without saying anything, they quietly kept going. He still loved music, but the idea of making it big felt like something he put on a shelf, hoping it would matter again someday. For a while, he found comfort in a small gospel band that gave him a reason to keep singing. They traveled, played together, and made something that felt solid. But when the pandemic hit, everything came to a halt. Venues closed, gatherings halted, and the band he had relied on fell apart completely. It wasn't anyone's fault, but it made it harder for Richard to go around. He lost one of the only places where he felt understood when that band broke up, and he had to start over with his confidence. But nothing could have had Richard ready for the hardest part of all. Richard's first wife, Patricia Sue, died of kidney cancer in 2021. She had been his partner for many years, the one who pushed him to keep going even when he didn't believe in himself. Everything changed after she died. It was more than simply sadness. It was the sudden feeling of being lost. They had lost the habits they had made together. The house had a different feel to it. The days seemed to last longer. He went to work since that's what he did. But internally, he was learning how to deal with a life that was no longer familiar to him. That type of loss doesn't go away. You are carrying it. And when he finally started singing again, you could hear the weight in his voice. After America's Talent, when things were finally going well for him, he is slammed with another surprise. The rush of interviews, travel, rehearsals, and new obligations pushed him to the point where his body had to slow him down. He had surgery for a hernia in 2024, which he required but didn't tell anyone about it first. He had to pull back from all he had been running towards to get better after that surgery. It allowed him time to reflect, breathe, and realize how much his life had changed in such a short amount of time. But life didn't stay hard. Richard discovered love again somewhere between rebuilding and grief. Angie came into his life in 2022, long before America's Got Talent made him famous. She didn't think of him as a superstar or a viral star. She knew who was behind it all. The one who was frightened, who hoped, and who quietly carried so much of his narrative. As time went on, she became the person he turned to when he needed support, the one who helped him get through the highs and lows of the competition, and the one who reminded him that he deserved more than just a few happy moments. And when America's Got Talent was putting the most pressure on him, she was the voice that told him to keep going. They got married just days before the end of the show, not for publicity but because she made his life seem full again. But Angie did more than that. She also told him to dig for answers in his own past, which he had never been brave enough to do. Richard didn't know who his biological father was when he was a child. He was okay with the space being empty for years. Angie, on the other hand, thought he deserved closure and an opportunity to learn more about his past. He looked for it because she told him to, and what he found shocked him. Richard's father was alive. He was a retired K-9 officer and Army veteran who lived a life that was radically different from Richard's. Richard had never met his 3 siblings before they came with him. When they eventually got together, it felt like the moment was bigger than any of them. He shared the news on his social media account saying, "Thanks to Ancestry and Angie, I found my biological father. He is a retired K-9 police officer in Indy, not to mention a retired Army veteran. He has no children, so you can imagine his shock to find out after all these years he has a son. While I can't tell you the whole story, he wasn't even told I existed. And he used to play drums, guitar, and mandolin. A huge thank you to my Angie. Had it not been for her, I wouldn't have tried to look." This new relationship didn't erase the past, but it definitely added a sense of belonging. He didn't know he had been missing to his future. Through everything he experienced, the people in his community stayed supportive. Even when America's Got Talent required him to fly to Los Angeles, it wasn't a corporation or a sponsorship that covered his travel. It was regular people, friends, neighbors, and strangers who had watched his TikTok clip and recognized a piece of themselves in him. They pulled their money, set up fundraisers, and made sure he had everything he needed to simply step onto that stage. But even with everything he'd been through, nothing prepared people for what he decided next. It was a choice that caught everyone off guard. A decision that changed the direction of his story in a way no one saw coming. The choice that shocked everyone. Nobody expected Richard's next move. Not the audience who voted for him. Not the reporters waiting outside the studio, not even some of the fans who had followed every step of his journey. After winning America's Got Talent, most people assumed he would trade in his janitor badge for a full-time music career. They pictured him signing contracts, moving to bigger cities, and leaving behind the life he had known for decades. But the moment the cameras stopped rolling, Richard made a decision that said far more about who he really is than any performance ever could. He chose to go back to work as a janitor at West VGO Middle School, the same building he had left before the finale. When interviewers asked why, he didn't make a dramatic statement or try to turn it into a grand lesson. He kept it simple. He explained that he planned to continue working at the school while new opportunities pop up and that he never expected to win in the first place. In fact, the whole experience still felt unreal to him. During the competition, he often said, America's Got Talent was anyone's game, and he meant it. He didn't walk in thinking he was destined to take the title. He walked in hoping people would understand how much singing meant to him. That was it. Fame wasn't the dream. Expression was. He wanted to share what he loved with people who might connect to it. And the show became the doorway that allowed that to happen. Believe it or not, Richard actually liked where he worked. He liked the kids. He liked the staff. He liked the structure of waking up and being part of a place that had shaped so much of his life. Music, even with a national platform behind him, he didn't feel the need to run from the life he had before all the cameras arrived. Returning to the school grounded him in the routines that made sense, even as everything else around him changed. But staying grounded didn't mean turning away from new experiences. After the competition, invitations began to roll in, and he welcomed each one with the same sincerity people had grown to love. He performed at an Indiana Pacers game where thousands of fans heard his voice echo across the arena. Not long after, he took the stage at the Circle of Lights, a cherished holiday event in Indiana that drew crowds excited to see their hometown winner in person. He opened a show for Howie Mandel, bringing his story full circle from contestant, music, to colleague. He even appeared at the Riverside Festival of Lights. Another moment that helped introduce his voice to audiences who had only seen him through a screen before. These appearances simply added new chapters to the life he was already living. His hometown embraced him in a way that made the first viral moment feel like only the beginning. He received a key to the city, an honor that showed how deeply people felt connected to his story. West VGO Middle School held a pep rally in his honor, celebrating not just his win, but the way he carried himself through the entire journey. Students cheered for the man who had cheered for them for years. Teachers cried and families showed up to thank him for representing the community with such sincerity. And even as he celebrated these new experiences, Richard continued posting photos of himself doing the same work he had always done. Cleaning classrooms, waxing floors, and getting ready for another school day. Balancing public recognition with everyday routine could have been overwhelming for someone else. But Richard didn't treat the attention like a burden or a spotlight he needed to run toward. He treated it like an extension of his life, not a replacement for it. While music and performance became part of him in a larger way, he held on to the stability of his job while allowing the music world to open slowly and naturally without forcing anything or rushing into deals he didn't feel ready for. And that steady approach created space for what came next. Because while he returned to his job, he didn't pause on his dream. His music career was beginning, and this journey would show just how far his voice could take him. Surprisingly, the start of his music career didn't come from a record label or a TV appearance. It came from a decision that pushed him into the world of professional music in a way he had never experienced before. The start of his music career. Richard decided to approach his music career slowly, almost cautiously, like someone stepping into a room they had only ever looked at from the doorway. The entertainment world can be loud, demanding, and fast. But Richard understood something most new performers don't. He didn't need to convince people he was worthy of attention. His performances had already done that. What he wanted was to grow at a pace that felt natural, a pace that let him stay connected to the life he came from while stepping into the one he was building. This approach carried into his first major musical milestone. His debut single, Long Time Coming, was released on August 29, 2025. A date fans marked in their calendars the moment he announced it. The announcement came in a heartfelt social media post that read, "Hi, this is Richard. I just wanted to tell you all my tale. It's been a crazy ride, and I wake up most days feeling like the luckiest man in the world. Many of you have asked what I'm doing next, and I'm excited to share with you all that my single, Long Time Coming, will be released on August 29 on all streaming platforms." He recorded the track in Nashville, a city that blends history with new beginnings, and the process gave him a chance to discover himself as an artist outside the competition stage. He shared hints of the song on social media, small previews that revealed the tone and feeling behind it. Every clip carried the same sincerity people were drawn to from the beginning. While crafting his own material, he didn't isolate himself from the community that helped shape his musical instincts. He joined a local group called Sugar Street, performing with them as he built his solo brand. These smaller shows gave him the space to experiment and find his footing without the overwhelming pressure of national attention. The band's rhythm, the local crowds, and the familiar atmosphere reminded him why he loved singing long before the world even knew his name. Working with new managers helped him navigate opportunities that came his way. But nothing about his approach felt rushed. The focus was on building something stable and long-lasting. As his music career began to take shape, another unexpected opportunity opened up. Publishers began expressing interest in telling his story in book form with all the elements people connect with: perseverance, loss, hope, and an unexpected rise. Discussions began about a potential book deal. And while nothing was finalized, the fact that people wanted to put his life into pages said a lot about how deeply his story resonated. Angie, his wife, even hinted that a biopic might be possible someday. When someone asked Richard who should play him in a movie, he laughed and said, "Zac Efron." While it was a joke, it showed how comfortable he was becoming with the attention. Even as he moved into new creative spaces, his connection with the show that introduced him to the world remained strong. During the 20th anniversary special of America's Got Talent, Richard returned to the stage and opened the night with Eye of the Tiger, a performance that felt both nostalgic and refreshed. He shared the stage with a massive ensemble of past contestants, creating a moment that blended old memories with new energy backstage. He watched his old audition from months earlier. The same clip that had lifted him from Indiana and carried him into the national spotlight. Seeing it again hit him harder than he expected. It wasn't just a video anymore. It was a marker of everything that had changed since the day he stepped onto that stage for the first time. That night also brought him back to the moment that had once felt almost unreal. Performing with Neil Schon, he described sharing the stage with Jury's guitarist as a dream come true. The kind of experience he never believed he would have in his lifetime. It served as a reminder of how many doors had opened since the show ended. Doors he never anticipated. Doors he walked through with gratitude instead of pressure. And then just when people thought they understood the direction his story was heading, he revealed something that caught almost everyone by surprise. A confirmation that shifted the story once again and hinted at a chapter nobody expected. The confirmation we didn't expect. By 2025, people had already formed their own ideas about Richard Goodall's future. Some believed his time on television would be a beautiful memory he'd look back on while returning to his everyday life. Others assumed he would struggle to break into an industry that moves fast and rarely waits for anyone. But the truth came directly from Richard himself in a simple and honest way that caught everyone's attention. He confirmed what fans had been quietly hoping. Music wasn't just a chapter in his life. It was the direction he intended to walk toward without turning back. Singing in school hallways, humming during lunch breaks, sharing familiar rock songs with students. Those weren't hobbies he used to pass time. They were pieces of him. They were the most natural parts of his day. When he said that America's Got Talent simply gave him a bigger stage, he wasn't trying to sound poetic or dramatic. He meant it. Everything he had done on that show was an extension of who he already was. The cameras didn't create his passion. They just amplified it. And that confirmation shifted the entire narrative around him. He wasn't a one-season success story or a lucky viral sensation. He was a man stepping fully into the career he had waited his whole life to pursue. The clearest example of that shift came in November 2025 at the VO County YMCA Inspiration Gala, a community gathering in Terre, the city that had known him long before talent shows ever existed in his world. The audience filled the room with a kind of energy that only comes from people who feel personally invested in someone's journey. When Richard walked onto the stage as the headliner, he performed his new single, A Long Time Coming, giving the crowd a first look at the direction his music was headed. He followed the new song with Don't Stop Believing, the one that changed everything for him. People sang along, families swayed together, teachers smiled through tears. The gala raised money for scholarships to help children attend summer camp and YMCA programs, something that made the night feel bigger than entertainment. It was a moment that captured everything Richard valued: community, connection, and purpose. As his commitment to music deepened, he also began thinking about the future in practical terms. His job at West VO Middle School had been a central part of his identity for years. But as his schedule grew and opportunities widened, he found himself thinking seriously about retiring from the school. It wasn't an easy decision, but it came from a place of growth. He had entered a new stage of life shaped by music, travel, and a partnership that mattered deeply to him. He talked about wanting to start a chapter with Angie that reflected the life they were building together. The idea of retirement didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a step towards something meaningful. This step led to another possibility which carried excitement and a sense of renewal. Richard and Angie have reportedly begun exploring the idea of moving to Florida. The state offers warmth, a lifestyle that feels more relaxing, and the chance to settle somewhere that matches the pace they want. He's spoken openly about wanting to buy a home. Not a mansion or something extravagant, just a place where he could work on music, rest between commitments, and spend his days enjoying his new life. As Richard and Angie planned out what their next few years might look like, he also started putting real steps in place for the career he was building. He opened up about wanting to collaborate with Simon Cowell in the future. Working with the man who helped introduce him to the country felt like a natural direction for everything he'd started. He also began exploring ideas for a full album, thinking through the kind of songs that truly represent him. Alongside that, conversations are forming around live tours and brand partnerships, each one fitting the genuine image people connected with from the beginning. Even as all of this picked up, he stayed close to the supporters who helped lift him from the start. He continued posting updates online, sharing moments from recording sessions and little pieces of his everyday life. Fans responded in a big way. Many told him his journey gave them hope, especially those who felt overlooked or believed they had waited too long to chase their own dreams. Richard took those messages to heart, especially because he understood what it felt like to wonder if your moment had passed, and because he wanted people to know that their support mattered to him. By all accounts, Richard hasn't left his job at West VGO Middle School. He's still there, still doing the work he's always done. Even as his music career continues to grow, it's simply where things stand right now. He's stepping into new opportunities, building toward a future in music, and keeping the job that supported him for most of his life. And maybe that's the part people connect with the most. Music, he's moving forward without pretending he has everything figured out. This is just the beginning for him, and he's taking it one step at a time. Do you think Richard Goodall should quit his janitor job at the school? Tell us in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.